Congo's struggle for independence has had a long and treacherous history, beginning in 1908 when Belgium ruled over Congo. The struggle for independence was carried out by several rebellious groups and individuals. Around 1919, Africans began to resist the colonial regime and rebelled. They advocated through the 1920s, continued from 1931 to 1936, and during World War II. Then reformers began to form cultural clubs in the 1950s because political associations were not allowed. In 1956, decolonization was talked about but seemed very distant. Yet the country was still portrayed by Belgium as idyllic, however it suffered unrest from its civilians. Last year, in 1958, the first nationwide political party was created. It was called the Congo National Movement, led by Patrice Lumumba. However, riots are beginning to break out after rallies were held advocating for Congo's independence. Here we have with us today Olivia, a resident of Congo who has lived and is currently living through this struggle. She is here with us today to give us the history and her thoughts on the outcome for Congo.
Well, hello.
So how are the native people of the DRC being affected by colonialism?
Well, us native people of the DRC are being affected by colonialism in mixed ways. In one way, by introducing us to Catholicism, giving us a Western-style education and improving our health. We are able to benefit from that. Literacy rates went up and some diseases were even eliminated. On the other hand, there is a very large racial divide and the colonists created a system of racial segregation. This is keeping the native population away from establishments frequented by the European whites. This is turning the population into second-class citizens. The private companies majorly exploited the native workers who are forced to work under extremely harsh conditions.
Wow, that's really interesting. What are the attitudes of the Belgians like towards the native people?
Well, the Belgian colonizers are acting in a paternalistic way in their dealing with the native population. They alone felt that they know what is best for the DRC.
Now, how are the Belgian colonizers using colonialism in your colony to profit themselves?
Under Belgian rule, two distinct periods of massive investment in the Congo's economic infrastructure stand out. After the First World War, priority was given to mining, as well as to transport infrastructure. Priority was also given to obtain the necessary capital. The Belgians are able to profit from colonialism by exploiting the people of the DRC for the interests of mining companies. The Belgians are taking advantage of the natural resources of the DRC to make as much money as possible without considering the well-being of the native people in the DRC.
How is your economy being impacted by this?
Well, in terms of the economy, the native people lost control of their country's resources when Belgium came in. The impact to the economy was favorable for the Belgian colonizers, but was much less favorable for us native people of the DRC. This is because the Belgian colonizers siphoned off the profits from the vast resources that were available, but exploited the native workforce, paying them very little, leaving our economy in poor conditions.
And are there any colonial policies being governed for educational and racial assimilation?
Well, in terms of education, the Belgians are working hard to spread Western education to the population so that they can create a more educated workforce. There are no policies governed for racial assimilation, however, and there is even a system of implicit apartheid, which means that the natives are completely separated and treated completely different from the Belgians in the DRC right now.
Wow. Now, lastly, are there any local native authorities trying to exercise any political authority for themselves?
Well, the local native authorities are not able to exercise any form of political authority. The Belgians would threaten us if we tried to exercise power because they want to be the only ones in the DRC with political authority.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you so much for your time
You're
and
welcome.
sharing your thoughts on the DRC. That concludes our segment for today. See you next time.